Good evening, everyone. Oops, not live. Mike. Good evening, everyone. My name is Carolyn Nelson Goddard. I am the president-elect of Florida PTA. I'm so glad to be with you this evening for this very special session of College 101 for high school students. We'll be together for about an hour, going over information that is pertinent to students as they prepare themselves to apply for post-secondary education. I want to thank all of our partners who are part of tonight's event. You can see their names and their logos listed here. Each of them has been an integral part of making sure that the success of our students is always at the forefront of our minds. Following our presentation this evening, we'll have a live Q&A session for you to participate in. So make sure you get those questions ready. You take good notes as we're going through, and you are ready to prepare yourself and your family to apply for colleges or any other post-secondary education options that may avail themselves to you. You can also use the Q&A box that you'll see on your screen to add additional questions. There is a live caption option available for this presentation if you'll use the CC button logo on the bottom right of your screen. Right now, I'd like to introduce to you our presenter for this evening, and she is an amazing young woman. Ms. Monique Bird is the District College and Career Advisor, Specialist, for Polk County Public Schools. She is a first-generation college attendee, and she's representing her college tonight, a proud graduate of I had to make sure I say the Valdosta State University. She's a former high school counselor, and she is an amazing person who will bring to you some fantastic information this evening. Monique, take it away.
All right, good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us. I'm going to transition to sharing my screen. Okay. Awesome. Can I get a head nod, Carolyn, if you can see my screen? Perfect. So I am super excited about tonight's session. We are going to talk about how you can plan, prepare, and execute greatness, understanding those post-secondary pathway options, how to navigate grades 9 through 11, and some real talk with a really close former student turned family member of mine. And then I'm going to share just a few resources for students and parents as well. So, first of all, planning for graduation does not start senior year. It starts long before senior year, but you have options. You may enroll, you may enlist, or you may want to go straight into employment. But what does that look like? Those students that may be interested in enrollment may be thinking they want to attend a 2 or 4-year institution immediately after high school. So it's important to maintain those good grades and start doing your research on those colleges that you may be interested in. Do they have programs that you may be interested in? Employment, students that are looking at that pathway, they want to explore going straight into the workforce after high school. So those students may take interest inventories to see the bigger picture of what careers interest them. And those interests, those surveys will help you to figure out, well, what career clusters am I interested in? And what pathways should I take? Is there an academy that I may be interested in? Of course, guidance from your parents and school counselor will help you along the way. Those students that are interested in enlistment are ready to serve. They are interested in going into the military. So those students may start researching the various branches that they would be interested in. And even in high school, they may be interested in taking junior ROTC to just get an idea of what that pathway may look like. But you can also get a 2-for-1. Being in the military or going into the military, you can also utilize that as a way to pay for your education. Think about that. All right, so some of you may be saying, listen, I understand these E's. You named 3. I understand I have options, but listen, sis, I'm not there yet. And that's okay. I know a lot of times when you're growing up, you're asked, well, what do you want to be? What do you want to be? That may change 1,000 times. And so will your E, and that's okay. But now is the time to start thinking. So breathe. You don't have to figure it out all overnight. We're going to discuss some ways and some steps that you can take every year, 9th, 10th, and 11th grade, to help you plan, prepare, and execute greatness no matter what pathway you decide to take. And to help me do that, I'm excited to introduce a former student turned family. I call him my nephew, Mr. Andrew Grant. He is on the call with us today, and I'm super excited to have him. I was actually Andrew's high school counselor, and now Andrew has a Bachelor's of Science in Biology, a minor in chemistry from the Florida Agricultural and Mechanical University, and he just received his MBA from Florida State University. Andrew, can you say hello?
Hey, good evening, everyone. I'm super happy to be here, super happy to talk to you guys today and help you figure out some of those paths and some of those decisions, because I was there not too long ago. So I'm excited to be here, and I want to thank Ms. Bird for everything she's done, and also thank her for this invitation.
Absolutely. I'm glad to have you join me. So first up, 9th graders. I wish I could see you guys, but I feel that I can virtually feel your energy. So 9th grade, Andrew and I did actually a little flashback. We connected and talked about his 9th grade year, and we just wanted to share some of those things that we think will be important for you as a 9th grader, as students and parents to consider. So 9th grade year is that year of exploration, right? You're thinking, and it's not too early, about what is your E? What are you interested in doing? Get to know your high school counselor and your teachers. That's super, super important. You want to make sure that you show up, right? You're going to class, you're on time or early, making sure that you are physically present, because attending today helps you achieve tomorrow. Creating a 4-year plan. Who can help you do that? Your rock star school counselor, helping you to make sure you take those classes that help you align with your goals. Exploring extracurricular activities. There are so many opportunities for you to get involved in high school. So check them out. Different clubs, community service, all of the above. Interest inventories. We actually have a couple of platforms that are offered for free. Big Futures, My Career Shines, that have ways for you to take those assessments and see, well, what is it you're interested in, and find out your passion to help you figure out your pathway. In the midst of you doing all this exploration, you have to make sure that you keep track of those accomplishments. So in 9th grade, starting that list of the things that you've been involved in from 9th grade on. Making sure you do your best in your classes. So yeah, you're showing up, but you're being proactive, you're paying attention, you're doing your assignments, you're asking questions if you don't understand something. Exploring summer activities. Now, don't just sleep the summer away or TikTok it away, all right? There's so many opportunities for you to get involved. Job shadowing, community service, various programs. You want to develop a solid foundation in your 9th grade year, right? Because honestly, I know a lot of people ask, when can I start securing the bag for scholarships? It starts in 9th grade, honestly, because the grades that you're making, the work that you're doing, it's all reflective over those course of 9th, 10th, and 11th grade years. And when colleges and various grants and scholarship opportunities come your way, you want to be ready, right? So you want to have the mentality to begin with the end in mind. So, Andrew, do you remember 9th grade?
Vividly.
Vividly? Let's think back. 9th grade, what's one thing that if you knew then, if you knew now what you knew then, you wish you could share with someone that was a freshman?
What I really would say about 9th grade is I would really encourage more exploration, and those areas that you may not be so good at, or areas that you may have some weakness in, don't shy away from those areas. Make sure that if there's an organization that you're interested in, just go try it. You never know. Just see, put yourself out there as much as you can while still getting that good foundation. But put yourself out there, because you may develop different interests, but at the same time, you can develop those areas where you may have a weakness. So make sure you're putting yourself out there as much as you can.
Awesome. Now, in ninth grade, did you take any accelerated courses? What did that look like for you with that transition from eighth to ninth?
So I actually had a very big transition from 8th grade to 9th grade. My first year at Haines High School, 9th grade, I was pre-IB, and I also took two AP courses. So it was a bit of a jump in terms of course load. So I didn't explore as many extracurriculars as I wanted to. But I would say that looking back at it, I would maybe think a little bit more about the transition in that course load, and maybe kind of do more of a gradual incline into those heavier classes, more so than just going straight off the bat into them.
That's important. Now, let me ask you, did you have a conversation with your counselor, your parent? Because I wasn't your ninth grade counselor, even though you came looking for me, which I appreciate because you were on top of things. But what made you decide that you wanted to take those courses and then ultimately maybe slow down a little bit if you could do things differently?
Okay, so the decision to take those courses really came from a conversation with my parents after some of the IB staff came to my middle school and they spoke about it. And it was a great opportunity, really good opportunity. And we decided that it should be something that I should do because I was at the time preparing to go to college or looking to go to college. So everything was good with that. But one thing I would say I wish I had known is I would look at some of the other options. I didn't know too much about the AP option, and I didn't know too much about the dual enrollment option. And the IB option, we kind of knew like the brochure and the paperwork, but we really didn't know a whole lot about it before we decided. So if I could go back, what I would say is the student and the parent and a counselor maybe sit down together and let's honestly assess where the student at. Let's see what are their interests, what they want to do, and knowing the outcomes of those programs and having research on those programs. At that point is where you could decide which one you want to go to. But I would definitely say gathering as much information about all of the programs and then pairing that to best to what fits the student at that time and what their interests are.
Awesome. Love that. So now we're moving on to 10th grade, where you're finding your groove, right? So 10th grade, sometimes during the beginning of the 10th grade year, for some students, they have to take a look back and they may have to refocus or shift because ninth grade might not have been the best year. You literally may ask yourself, "Ooh, I don't know what happened," or "What had happened was ... Because sometimes that transition can be very tough for students, right? But I want to tell you, you can come back. So if that's you, if you're a 10th grader that's on the line and you didn't have the best ninth grade year, and maybe even right now, 10th grade, so first semester, you can make a comeback, okay? It's time to refocus. It's time to revisit and remember that end goal in mind. And let's get together with your school counselor. Let's get together with your teachers and your parents and create a success plan. Are your goals still the same? Are you still interested in going straight into enrollment, or are you more so interested in employment or enlistment? What does that pathway look like? Step your game up in 10th grade. Own it, okay? If you know ninth grade wasn't the best, again, let's regroup. Let's lead from the front. If you haven't joined extracurricular organizations or you haven't maybe looked into taking advanced placement courses or dual enrollment courses, these are conversations to start having, right? Community service, quality community service is so important to start getting involved in annually. You want to make sure that you're also logging those service hours annually. You do not want to procrastinate. And when I say quality service hours, also those service priorities or programs that interest you, right? Those opportunities that interest you. If you know that you don't like animals, I suggest you don't go volunteer at the Humane Society, okay? So looking at service opportunities that interest you. This is a year to also make sure you're prioritizing your time. You're getting busier, so utilizing a calendar and a planner, setting those reminders. And honestly, if you can schedule a date to go out with your friends, you can schedule an appointment with yourself. And time blocking your studying. Andrew, let's talk about the first part of 10th grade, right? One thing that stood out to me when I thought about your 10th grade year was community service and getting those hours in. Can you talk about the importance of maybe doing that annually versus waiting to the end of the year, the end of your senior year?
Yes, definitely. So it is pertinent, absolutely pertinent, that you not only keep track of your community service hours, but also turn them in on a regular basis, whether that be annually, every semester, whatever works for you, but don't let it be all at the end. Because I had a lot of good quality community service through the organizations that I was in. However, I waited until my senior year to try to turn all of them in. It was like over 1,000 hours. And luckily I had those records, but I almost missed out on, I forgot what the medal was called, but it was a medal that we got to wear at graduation. And I almost missed out on it because I had the hours, but they weren't logged in the system. So I was left trying to rush to scramble to get all my hours in. So I would recommend do not do that. Definitely take the periodic approach and turn those in before ahead of time.
Absolutely. Also in 10th grade, 10th graders sit for the pre-SAT or PSAT. And while it's not the SAT, it's a great opportunity for you to see what the SAT is like, right? It gives you a great idea of what that college entrance exam is like. So take that seriously. Do you remember that, taking the PSAT or sitting for the PSAT, Andrew?
I vaguely remember it. But one thing I can say about that is that it's a good indicator or a good tool that you can use once you get those scores back, and after you have that experience of taking the test, you can then use that to kind of key in on certain areas and kind of mold how you're going to study for the big test based on that.
Absolutely agree. There are so many resources available too to help study for PSAT and SAT, and I do have a couple of those at the end of the presentation, so don't you guys worry, they're going to be there to show you. During this grade level, it's also important to start, if you're interested in enrollment, looking at those colleges that interest you. And there's so many platforms and programs that I'm sure your counselor can share with you to help you do research. But one that I really enjoy is Big Future, because they have a component where you can compare and contrast colleges, right? So it's so important to see the financial side, if it has the programs you're interested in. But Big Future, which is through College Board, is an awesome resource for you to use to start building your college list. And in junior year, if you're utilizing the resource, Big Futures and College Board, they have College Board Opportunity Scholarships that you can start earning as early as the spring of your junior year. And we'll talk a little bit about that when we get to that grade level. Exposure, exposure, exposure. Again, it's never too early to start talking about your future. Take full advantage of the opportunities to learn more about subjects and pathways that may interest you. And that comes with exposure. So annually, I know in our district, we have a district college fair, and I'm sure wherever you are, there's some type of opportunity, either virtually or in person, for you to connect with various colleges and university representatives. Get involved, right? If you have military recruiters coming out to your school and they're hosting information sessions, and you know you're interested in going into a branch of the military, that's a great opportunity to have that chat with them about what it takes. What do those steps look like? How should you be planning? Having chats with those employers that may be in a field that you're interested in, internships and job shadowing opportunities. And don't forget your parents, okay? They actually are extremely knowledgeable, and they may have some connections with people that they can put you in touch with jobs that you may be interested in to learn more about the field. Maintain and build meaningful relationships with your counselors and teachers. Andrew, I definitely want you to talk about that, right? Because you and I have really developed an amazing relationship over the years, but it wasn't just me that you developed relationships with. You kept in contact with your teachers and other counselors. So I want you to talk a little bit about that.
For sure. So as far as building and maintaining relationships, it's important to realize that especially teachers or other employees, that these are people that are there to help you and that are there to help you better your life and your career. So to take the mentality that, oh, well, I only have them this semester and I'm never going to see them again, or after high school, I'm never going to see them again, I would kind of tell people not to have that mentality. Definitely show an interest in your education, show an interest in bettering yourself, because when they see that you take your education seriously, you take yourself seriously, it kind of makes them more inclined to want to help you. So I would say that's the first step in initiating a relationship. Don't just come to them at the end of the semester trying to save your grade. Oh, what can I do to pass? Not that type of thing. Making sure that throughout the whole semester, you're checking in with them constantly, seeing if there's anything that you can do. And then by doing that and having those series of conversations, you'll get to know them, they'll get to know you, and then that'll really come in handy when it's time for your senior year and your junior year and you're applying for scholarships and you need people to write you a letter of recommendation. Because it's a lot harder to get somebody to write your letter of recommendation when you had their class 2 years ago, you sat in the back and never said anything, and what are they going to say about you? So when you're constantly keeping in contact, keeping that connection with them, even beyond having their class, because they still can help you in other ways beyond just in their course, in their material. They still might know some of these people with job shadowing opportunities. They still might be able to give you some advice in other areas. So make sure definitely that you are building and maintaining those relationships with your counselors and your teachers and just anyone in general who's a school employee, because everyone has something that they can teach you and that you can learn from them.
Absolutely. And that's also just a great segue into not only that, knowing your status, right? So you don't want any surprises. Just like the teachers, they need to know who you are. They need to know what your interests are. You need to know where you are on your pathway to success at all times. You need to know what your grades are in every class. You should not be surprised when your report card comes. You should be looking at that student portal. You should be asking questions prior to the end of the semester, right? You should know your GPA. You should understand where you are in regards to your path to graduation and post-secondary planning. If there's courses that you need to take as prerequisites, are they offered as dual enrollment? Is there an AP course that you may be interested in? You should know your status at all times and stay on top of things. So again, there's no surprises. Oh, Andrew, we're moving into junior year. Oh, snizzles. So junior year, you may have to revisit those goals again, and that's okay. You may want to retake an interest inventory because maybe, again, your interests have changed. That's okay. So reevaluate and revisit those goals, see where you are on your path to success and who can help you along the way, right? Surrounding yourself with those people that are going to help you do and be better, and that's going to pour into you. And some of those people outside of friends and family will be your educators, the counselors, administrators, teachers, community leaders. So again, that goes back to maintaining those relationships. Continue to track your service and your campus involvement. This is where you can start drafting a resume. Your English teacher or your counselor may have great resume templates that they can share with you. So this is a time where in 9th and 10th grade, you've already started the process of keeping track of those extracurricular activities and programs that you've been involved in. Now we're going to transfer it to a resume. Like, we're legit getting real, okay? You're gonna, in the 11th grade year, have the opportunity to take the PSAT, NMSQT in October. Now for juniors, there's a small fee. Last year in the fall, it was $18 if I'm not mistaken, but taking it in the junior year helps you qualify for more scholarship opportunities. So that is an option as a junior for you to consider to take the PSAT, NMSQT. Also, when you're looking into your junior year towards the end of fall, you're going to make sure you register for a spring ACT or SAT if you're interested in going on to enroll into higher education, right? Why is that important, Andrew, to sit for both of those tests? Can you tell them?
Yes. I think that it's important to sit for both of those tests because I know personally for me, I did better on one of those tests than I did for the other one. So just taking both of those tests and then seeing which one you like, which format you did better on, and then maybe studying and keying in on that one a little bit more. But a serious point, a very serious point.
Wait, you said serious point?
A serious point. Very
Okay,
serious.
everybody lean in. Serious point.
A very serious point is when you take these tests, whether it be the ASVAB, SAT, or ACT, make sure that you show up physically and mentally. Make sure that you have taken time to prepare. Make sure that you are taking this test seriously and you're not just taking it because a counselor told you to take it. You're not just taking it because you know you have to take it. Make sure that you understand that this is something that is very important to your future. And I see on here we have fee waivers. If you are a student who qualifies for a fee waiver, definitely get it. But it's even more so important that you show up physically and mentally, because don't take opportunities from people who would have shown up and would have put in the time and would have put in the effort. So make sure that you're keying in, you're taking it seriously, because it is important. And when you get those scores back, make sure you're not just, oh, well, I got this, whatever score, whatever. No, look at the feedback that they give you. Look at the areas that you might need help. Look at the areas that you are strong in or you may be struggling in, and use that to go forward to get better. Don't just glance over this. Don't just, oh, show up the day of the test. When we go back to talking about time blocking, make sure in your time that you're prioritizing some type of studying for these tests, because these tests are becoming more and more important. I've seen it at both the universities that I went to. They're taking it more seriously now even than when I got in. So make sure that you definitely are keying in on these tests.
Andrew, let me ask you this, because I know a lot of students, they have questions about really how to prepare and what resources are out there. And I do have a few resources listed, the SAT practice site, ACT, and Khan Academy. Do you remember what worked for you? What worked best for you?
If I'm being completely honest, I use the SAT prep book. That worked really well for me, doing the prep book. If I were to do it again, I don't think I would use only the prep book. I would use, if not an in-person tutor, probably some of these resources up here. I know Khan Academy was one that I sort of used, but it was really good. And the thing that's a little bit better about Khan Academy, not better, but different about Khan Academy than the book, is it's kind of tailored to you. So if they see that you're having trouble with the comprehension of a question, or you're having trouble with certain types of comprehension, they give you more of those questions. So I would start there to kind of build a framework for what we need to work on, and to kind of like build up your SAT and ACT muscles. And then I would move over to the prep book for more so test questions and checking yourself to see if you really have it. Because some of the online resources and the in-person tutor is going to be a little bit more adaptive, whereas the ACT and ACT book is kind of just on paper there. So that's how I would attack it if I had to do it again.
So it seems like you're not waiting until the week before the exam. You're also saying that preparation starts way before your exam day to ensure you are ready.
Exactly. This is all part of showing up physically and mentally. I definitely would not recommend cramming. I mean, it's not possible, it's a huge book, but I definitely wouldn't recommend cramming for the SAT or ACT. I definitely would recommend starting as early as possible. And I believe it's a point that Ms. Bird spoke to on here, is surrounding yourself with the right types of people. If you can go to the mall with your friends and you guys can go hang out, you also can put some time in there to say, hey, let's sit down and study for the SAT, the SAT and ACT. So I definitely would, I cannot stress enough, take these tests seriously, like definitely take them seriously, and make sure that you're showing up, make sure that you're putting these fee waivers to good use, and make sure that you're putting these resources, even some of these free resources that are out here, to good use.
Now, I remember you were in ROTC. Did you ever sit for the ASVAB?
Yes, ma'am, I did.
Okay. Do you remember what that was like?
I do remember sitting for the ASVAB. The ASVAB is kind of different because they do have some of like the standard reading, math, science. I don't know all the exact components. They do have some of those school courses, but they also bring in, like, I believe it's a mechanical component and different things like that, kind of like more of everyday applications.
Right.
The ASVAB, I do know that through the recruiters, specifically, I know the Army recruiter does it, but I'm imagining other recruiters did it as well. They did have study sessions for the ASVAB, and there was a practice ASVAB that they had. So if a student is interested in enlisting, I would definitely say you don't have to be in ROTC, but a lot of the times that's where the recruiters kind of just go to hang out. So, or maybe sometimes you can even ask the JRTC instructor, even if you're not in ROTC, like, hey, are there going to be any ASVAB sessions? Hey, do you know a recruiter I could talk to? Because even sometimes at the recruitment office, they may have some ASVAB materials there for you.
Yes. And of course, you can go to your best friend, your school counselor, and get some resources and connections with the military branch that you may be interested in. One thing I also wanted to talk about was the college and career workshops that may be available to parents and students. Did you attend any workshops while you were in your sophomore or junior year for sophomores, for juniors, for parents and students? And what were they like? Do you feel like they helped you get a better idea, bigger picture?
Definitely. So my view on this is gonna be a little bit skewed because I had Miss Bird. I was always in her office, so I kind of like always was hip to everything that was going on. So I did attend some of those sessions. I believe my parents did come to a few of them, but most of the ones I went to, I think it was just kind of like us in the computer lab filling out something. I would say that those gave me a good understanding, a good general understanding. But I would say when you go to those, you're gonna understand, but take some questions that you want to ask, because they're gonna go over like the general idea, the big picture of whatever it is. But you may have some questions that are specific to you, or they may be opportunities that you don't know about that aren't kind of broadcast, that are specific to you that you may qualify for. So take questions, take personal situations, things like that, and maybe ask your counselor or ask the organizer who put that together, because everyone's different, everyone has a unique situation. Yeah. So you may be able to get more understanding or learn about even more opportunities by taking those questions and taking that time to go and speak to your counselor or the organizer of that event.
Awesome. And speaking about organization, you said organizer, but when I'm shifting into organization, that is a huge part, I feel like, of being successful in life, but even more so when you start post-secondary planning. And I remember you keeping those lists of things you needed to do and those scholarships. But one thing I remember we talked a lot about was having a professional email account and keeping a folder either physically or electronically to host all of your information and your resources. So professional email. I'm going to be transparent with you all and tell you, when I applied for my first job, which was at Checkers, I did not have a professional email, and they brought it up in my little interview that I was Sweet Little Georgia Peach 47812. And I tell you, to this day, I'm a little embarrassed about not having me a professional email. And so I make sure I share it with everyone. If you do not have a professional email, when you start this process, you got to get one, right? Typically it's first dot last name, or maybe first dot last name, or first name last name with a number that you may remember at Gmail or Outlook. But you want to make sure that the job application, the college application, the scholarship application, that they take you seriously, right? Because they might not take you seriously based off your email name. And I know that sounds silly, but it holds a lot of weight. It's literally a first impression, a virtual first impression and introduction. I see you shaking your head, Andrew. You can agree?
Yes, I definitely agree. And one excuse that I heard for someone having one was, oh, well, I have a common name, so it was hard to make one. My name is Andrew Grant, and I have a professional email. I have a very common name. So if I can make one, you can make one too.
Absolutely. So if at this point in 11th grade, you have not created a professional email, and to be honest, you could create that as early as 9th grade if you want, but the key is to only use it for your post-secondary planning. So only for college applications, only for job applications, only for scholarship opportunities. You only want that information pushed to that email client. You don't want coupons and sales going to that email and clouding it, all right? Because you don't want to miss an opportunity that could come your way. So if you don't have that professional email, go ahead and get it started. All right, we're trucking on through 11th grade around spring and then shifting into summer, Andrew. So at this point, you are narrowing down your options, right? Especially if you're looking at enrollment or going into a 2 or 4 year institution, you shouldn't have 30 options at this point. You should be narrowing that list down, looking at those schools that have the programs you're interested in and looking at the financial costs and things like that. You're also going to make sure that while in 9th and 10th grade, remember you started those lists of the activities you were in, your service opportunities, you're going to be shifting it to that resume. So making sure that in that draft resume that you started earlier in the year, you're keeping it updated on a regular basis. Again, so you're ready. College interest, going beyond the brochure. You can Google and you can look and you can read and you can research, but making sure that you're looking at, do you meet the qualifications? Do you have the ASVAB score? Do you have the SAT or ACT score for an institution that you're interested in? If you're looking to employment, do you meet those qualifications? Are you still on track? And if not, how can you get on track? Looking and talking to recruiters again, making sure if you have opportunities for internship or job shadowing opportunities. If you are able to road trip, Andrew brought up a great point. If you can hang out and go to the mall with your friends, maybe you guys can schedule some visitation days together. You know, you can look at going during spring break and doing a road trip or during the summer to look at some of those colleges that you're interested in, because it makes a difference when you can physically get on the campus. And if you can't, that's a-okay, because of the way the world is now, you have so many opportunities to view the campus virtually, and it's still a great opportunity for you to see what it's like. Your bestie hasn't gone anywhere. You still got to meet with your school counselor, but I would suggest also making sure that your parents are involved in that conversation as well. Bringing them in, talking about your senior year, because it's right there, like you are coming towards the end of junior year, so you got to be ready, right? Looking at the college application process and the timeline. If you're interested in applying to a job, looking at the timeline, scholarship opportunities. It's time to start asking those questions. Now, a lot of scholarships are available senior year, but again, you're starting as early as 9th grade because they're looking at your transcripts, they're looking at your service and what you're doing in the community and holistically you as a student, right? But there may be opportunities for you as a freshman, a sophomore, or junior. That's where you're speaking with your counselor to learn more about those local scholarship opportunities that may be available as early as 9th grade year. But the bulk of scholarships you will see flooding your counselor's office during your senior year, but you want to be ready. Planning ahead. We talked about having that planner, utilizing your calendar. We on our phones all day, every day, and everything can sync to laptop, computer, iPad, you name it. So utilize it. As a junior, you already are starting to learn that there are some important deadlines and dates your senior year, right? I know it's an exciting year. You're gonna have homecoming, prom, you know, all of this exciting things going on, but you wanna go ahead and put the Florida Financial Aid application or Bright Futures application deadline on your calendar. You wanna make sure you're putting the FAFSA, free application for federal student aid deadline, on your calendar. You wanna make sure those application deadlines for colleges and priority deadlines are on your calendar so you are aware. You also wanna make sure that if there are any student or parent programs that are being offered during the summer or in the fall, that you already have them on your calendar. So if you're working, you can take off and be ready and available, and your parents can be there as well. You want to stay focused, right? You don't want to try and veer off that junior year because you're right at the end. You have to stay strong, because what you have to really consider and think about is, and we talked about this in the beginning, the planning and the preparation doesn't start senior year. And what is visible to to your colleges and the jobs and all of those places and programs that you're going to be applying to, scholarships, what's visible to them on your transcript is grades 9 through 11. So you want to finish 11th grade strong, because when you start that application process in the fall, they're not going to see anything from senior year until January, right? And at that point, you would have already started the application process. So you want to make sure you do have an SAT or ACT score. It may not be what you want, but you can retest in the fall. After some more studying and planning and preparation, you can up the score, right? But you want to still be prepared. Andrew brought up a great analogy that I'm going to let him explain. Next man up mentality. Andrew, tell them about that and why it's so important to have the next man up mentality as a junior.
Yes, so that's actually an analogy that comes from sports. So with sports, you have kind of like your starters who are in the game, and then you have practice squad players, people that are maybe second string, third string on the bench. But those people who are on the bench or on the practice squad still have to know the plays, they have to know the signals from the coaches, they have to know the game plan, the strategy, and everything that's going on, because at any point a star player might go down. At any point they may have to actually get in the game. So that's the kind of the approach you want to have in 11th grade. You want to know kind of what to expect about your senior year, so when it's time for you to get into the game and time for you to be a senior, you're not completely lost. So that's what the next man up mentality is about. And a way that you can do this is meeting with your counselor, being around your counselor. If you have friends that are seniors, kind of like when they're in the offices, just talking about certain things. I know for me, I learned about FAFSA and different kind of like the major things. You're not going to know all the intricate details of things until you're a senior, but kind of some of the major ones that you hear stressed a lot. If you hear them talking about something a lot, multiple times, that's probably something you should put in your notes or put in your calendar, like, hey, let me ask about this. Let me see what this is going to be about senior year. So then you kind of have some of those major points of senior year already on your radar. So as Ms. Bird said earlier, when you come into it, we don't want any surprises like, oh man, I was supposed to do this. I was supposed to get this together. I had to get this together. And another thing is you can go ahead and start gathering some of the things you need, some of the documents that you might need for FAFSA. And just something about FAFSA that I will say, when you go on FAFSA, they have the opportunity for you to link your parents' tax return straight from the IRS. I didn't know that at first. I know that now. Because in college, I never got flag verification. Everyone's getting flag verification. I'm like, oh, I'm good. They love me. I'm good. So I ended up getting flagged for verification, and I don't know how I didn't catch the notification quick enough. But then there were problems like getting my parents' tax returns from the IRS and things like that. So while I'm sitting here waiting for the IRS to send over this information, to send this stuff, there's grants they're passing me by. There's like scholarships from the school they're passing by, because the money doesn't stop just because you're one FAFSA stop. So if you just go ahead from jump, just go ahead and link their information straight over from the IRS, that'll kind of mitigate that issue. That's something I wish I did.
Awesome. And I love that you brought up that you can start planning now. So for those of you that are in your junior year, you can start looking at the federal student aid site and connecting with your counselor. You and your parent can create an FSA ID. Things like that you can start doing now. While you can't physically complete the FAFSA until October 1 of your senior year, or Bright Futures October 1 of your senior year, you can start planning and preparing now. You can start looking and seeing what it takes and what is needed, what information from the parent and the student is going to be needed to complete those applications. Now, you don't have to do them on your own. There are so many resources available. Again, your best friend, your counselor may be hosting something on campus where they're bringing in post-secondary institutions to help you. I know that we've hosted actually recently a financial aid night where we virtually walked you through it, and I believe it's recorded, so you guys can check that out on the website and look back at it if you have questions. But again, if you're in that junior year, definitely consider, what can I start doing now that can set me up for success when I get to my senior year, especially in regards to planning for the FAFSA.
Yes. If you're a junior and you're sitting here right now, you should have, when we just said that, you should have taken out your phone and put that date, October 1st, in there to remember. Parents, if you're with them, make sure they just save that date.
Bingo. Add it. Matter of fact, go ahead and do it right now if you have it. You have the opportunity. We see you. We see you. You see him, Andrew? I see him. Take your phones out. Okay. Looks like my screen. Okay, there we go. This is just a cute little slide that I wanted to share in regards to scholarships. It's a lot of opportunities for students to receive aid via scholarships. The key though is I want you to remember, again, it starts as early as 9th grade, you planning and preparing, but also make sure that you remember that a lot of scholarship dollars are coming from the institution, right? So making sure that you understand you have to keep those grades up. You have to make sure that those colleges you're interested in, you're applying by the deadline or before, and you are applying for financial aid to get as much money as possible. Andrew brought up a great point. The money don't stop. Okay, it's going to keep flowing and going, and you don't want it to run out. You want to be in the number. Okay, in your in your sophomore, junior year, I love the point Andrew brought up. He was up under me all the time, but he was also up under upperclassmen, listening and paying attention at programs and events. So he started keeping a list of scholarships that he knew were annual scholarships that he could potentially apply to his senior year. And I remember his senior year, he kept a list in an envelope of all of the scholarships, and he would come to my office and check them off, and he'll get excited every time checking them off. And I do remember too, I hope you don't mind me sharing, Andrew, at one point you did get a little frustrated because you felt like you weren't possibly going to get any scholarships. You weren't hearing back. How did you get out of that funk? Like, what helped you to press forward and to keep applying?
The honest answer, when I got a check for $3,000 in my mailbox. If I'm being completely honest, I was applying for a lot of scholarships. I was applying for a lot of scholarships, and like Ms. Bird said, I was kind of getting discouraged. Oh, and my sister helped too. My sister was like my second mom, standing on me with the scholarships. But I was applying to a lot of scholarships, like tons of scholarships, and I felt like nothing was happening. I kind of felt like I was at a stalemate, and I was like, why am I doing this? Is kind of what I thought to myself, and nothing is happening. And then I remember one day, I don't know if my mom called me or when I came home, it was just a letter. And I remember it was the Deb Artello Family Foundation. They still do that scholarship. And she was like, oh, it's a check in here for you for $3,000. And they didn't reach out to the school. They didn't email me. They just sent me a check in the mail because I had won the scholarship. So don't miss out on opportunities like that because you feel like, oh, nothing's gonna happen, or oh, it's not doing it. Because at the end of the day, this is how I looked at it too. This is another thing that helped me. Would you turn in your resume, this information sheet, and a 500-word essay for $1,000? If someone said, I'm just gonna give you $1,000, that's all you have to do, just give that to me. Would you do it? Yes. So when you're doing a scholarship, you have an opportunity to get that $1,000. And that's why it's so important to make sure you're keeping up with these documents. That Ms. Bird said earlier, have your professional email, have your resume, and keep up with your documents, your different application documents, whether it be like a biographical sketch of yourself and your goals, essays that you write. Keep all of those things. I kept mine in a Google Drive. I had a folder for each scholarship. Keep all of those things because you're going to be able to use some of those things, pull different pieces from some of those things. And after a point, it gets easy, honestly, because after a point, you do so many to the point where it's like, oh, they want a resume, got a resume. They want an essay. Okay, I have this much of the essay written. Let me just do a little bit more and turn in. Like after you starting off is the hard part. After you get it going, it's going to be easier because when you apply for so many scholarships, you know what they want, and then you'll have all the documents ready.
Reuse and recycle those essays. You are not plagiarizing your own work. Now make sure when you reuse and recycle, you rename because you don't want to send the wrong scholarship essay to the wrong organization or the wrong date or the wrong college application essay, right? And also I wanted to bring up a great point of don't skip over small scholarships. They all add up, right? That $100 book scholarship, $500 book scholarship, all of that adds up, and some of them may even be reoccurring. So that means you can get coins every year. It may be $1,000 annually. So boom, you have $4,000. Ka-ching. Hello. So don't pass up those scholarship opportunities. And also, very, very important point, scholarships are free. The FAFSA, the free application for federal student aid, is free. You should not be paying to complete the FAFSA. You should not be paying for scholarships. The only thing you should be paying is the time and attention to complete them and get them done. You want to make sure you're reading those applications and you're doing the best that you can as far as keeping track of the deadlines and submitting your best work, but you should not be making any type of payment for scholarships or for the FAFSA. Parents, we did not forget about you. You play a huge role in the success of your students. So I just suggest to you, you stay involved, you meet with the school counselor, you stay on top of your students' class schedule and their post-secondary plans and opportunities, having conversations with your students to see where they are. You know, we talked a lot about their time over time. Their goals or their E may change. They may want to go into enlistment, or they may want to go into enrollment or employment, and that could change over time, and just being supported, right? But also understanding that you have support as well at the school level. There are resources that are available to you. If you have questions, don't be afraid to ask. The parent programs and events that are hosted, they are for you. If they're virtual or in person, I encourage you to try your best to try to attend so you can stay on top of things in ways to help your student. Again, keep the conversation going about your students' interests, you know, encourage them to follow their passion, but to be realistic, and knowing that there is a price tag attached. There are also resources to help you kind of figure out, okay, financially, what is going to be expected from you. You know, in addition to, of course, the FAFSA, you completing the FAFSA, you get an EFC or expected family contribution. This lets you know an idea of what is expected from your family. And to dig a little deeper, you can utilize a resource that's called a net price calculator that just basically gives you a true understanding of what it is you are going to have to contribute for your students' post-secondary education. We have a ton of resources that you can utilize from Cash for College or the Florida College Access Network. They have great resources available for you. And I'm quite sure your counselor, I can't talk enough about these people, okay? They are a wealth of knowledge and a huge resource. Go to them, ask those questions. And if they don't know the answer, I guarantee they will connect you with who can help you, right? Start having conversations, realistic conversations about finances now. 9th, 10th, 11th grade year. Even if you're able to just put a little bit to the side every month or every other month for post-secondary education, that is a great opportunity to start saving. There are different savings plans, such as the prepaid savings or 529 plan that you can look into and see what works best for you. And helping your students to also understand the various financial aid that is available, the student grants, the scholarships, work study opportunities, and loans. So understanding the difference and what that entails, all right? So important. One of my favorite resources is provided by College Board, and they have several advising essential volumes. My favorite two out of the 4 or 5 is volume 1 and volume 3. And as you can see from the slide, they are awesome resources for all grade levels, especially 9th, 10th, and 11th, because you are in those planning and preparation stages. Planning for high school, that first photo screenshot is a great way for you to start listing those activities for you to put into a resume. Understand the admissions glossary. If you've never been to college, if you're first generation like myself and Andrew, as a parent, you may not understand the terminology. So you're learning along the way. They have great resources to help you and your student to start understanding those terms. A family, not just a student or parent, but a family action plan, because it takes a village to help your students to start planning for life after they graduate. And even looking as closely as to helping you find the best fit for college. They have awesome resources available as well in those advising essentials. a few other resources, and I have them hyperlinked here. I do plan to share the PowerPoint if that's going to be available. I'll have to get with the team to see if it can be uploaded, but I don't mind sharing the PowerPoint so you can easily access these links. I have a list of resources here that you can check out. Again, I mentioned Florida College Access Network, My Career Shines for those career interest inventories and explorations, Big Futures, the College Board Opportunity Scholarships, Sally Mae free scholarship resources, the apps that are available, but not only electronic apps, think about humans as well. Those people that you are surrounded by, educators, parents, professionals, they're all great resources, right? I also want to point out, again, we're on our cell phones all the time, but like I stated earlier, surrounding yourself with people that are going to make you do and be better. Also thinking about who you're following on social media, what you're looking, what you're reading, what you're listening to, making sure that you're following resources that are going to help. So Twitter, I've come to find, has all the tea. Now I know TikTok is like taking over, but I finally gotten into the Twitter deal and I love it because I found out so much valuable information. I follow Federal Student Aid for reminders and updates on all things related to scholarships, grants, and financial aid. I follow College Board, I follow SAT, and I make sure that's a verified account. And I also follow some motivational speakers to continue to pour into me positive energy. So you're already on your phones. Look at social media outlets, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and follow these accounts because it's also a great reminder of those things we've talked about in each grade level that you need to continue to do. Florida College Access Network has reminders. I mean, you just name it. Check out Twitter, get the tea, and follow those people and those accounts that are going to help pour into you. That's all that we have. Andrew, did you have anything you want to add before we hop into the questions? It is 7 o'clock on the dot. Wow. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing my screen because we were supposed to go into Q&A. I went a little over. I just get so excited about these conversations.
And it was indeed good conversations. I'll let Andrew do any closing remarks before I jump into the questions.
I'll keep my closing remarks pretty brief. I just would say to the parents and the students that are attending this, like it is real. These steps are very real. This can lead to your child being successful. The steps that are laid out here. I know I was a first generation college student. Me and my family, we kind of had to learn. My sister went to college before me, but she didn't have this. And, she kind of had to be the guinea pig and kind of had to struggle through a little bit. So now that you have these resources in front of you, use them. It is real. It does work. I'm sitting here I got a degree from 2 different schools in Tallahassee. Great job. Like it's possible. It can happen for you. So definitely make sure that you're taking it seriously and not just blowing it off because it can happen.
Thank you, Andrew. And thank you, Monique. That presentation was great. So let's get into the questions. I'm going to be a proud aunt for a moment and talk to you about a question from my niece, who is a student in Polk County, who I'm going to connect you with.
Oh, wow. Awesome.
So her question is, I'm enrolled in dual enrollment at Polk State for the summer of 2022, but I'll be taking the PERT test. Will she also have to take the ACT or SAT?
If she is going to, is she saying to go to Polk State or after Polk State? Because she will if the institution she's interested in requires those test scores.
I think she's at Polk State this summer in dual enrollment.
Okay, so if she's already dual enrolled, then once she is, what grade is she in right now?
10th grade.
10th grade. Oh, impressive. Yes. So she will, when she gets to her junior year, want to explore at least that spring taking ACT and SAT to see what they're like.
Perfect. Thank you. I'll share that. And she's online, so I'm sure she'll reach out to. So one of the great questions that came in is it better to go to a community college first and then transfer? And that actually ties into another question that we have, which is, what's a 2x2? 2 plus 2.
Okay, I'm trying to unmute and mute. I really think that it's up to the student and to have that conversation with the parent, the student on what is best, because some students really are excited to go straight into a four-year institution, but maybe financially it's not the best decision at that time. And some students, maybe they aren't just as mature, they aren't mature just yet to transfer over to a four-year institution. And we have various schools I know here in Florida that do have agreements where the student can go to a two-year institution and then transfer, matriculate over into a four-year institution, right? So if they do well at that institution, they're guaranteed that admittance into the four-year institution. And I think our two-year schools really do get a bad rap a lot of times. Students want to immediately get out of their county or district. They feel like in order to be successful, they have to get away from Polk, they have to get away from Osceola, and that's not the case. You actually save a lot of money and you can grow a lot by staying home if that's the case, and then transferring to a four-year institution.
So that would be our 2+2?
Yes.
2 years of community college and then transferring? Excellent. So here's another question. So in what grade does the PSAT count for National Merit Scholarships? And can you expand a little bit about the different categories of National Merit Scholarships? Is it the 11th or 12th grade?
I shared in the PowerPoint that you sit for the test during your 10th grade year, but it's the 11th grade score that is counting towards the PSAT, it's a tongue twister, PSAT NMSQT scholarship.
And there are several categories within the National Merit Scholarships, aren't there?
There are several scholarship opportunities, and I'm sorry I can't name all of those opportunities, but it opens the door for the students to be able to be eligible for other scholarships.
Excellent. So here's a question. What are the pros and cons of applying to colleges with and without test scores? And which would you recommend?
So because of COVID, I know that some schools are test optional, right? And I really think that it just depends on the institution, whether you're having to take the test or not. Because if they require you to have test scores, you have to have test scores. So some schools are test optional, and that's a point of clarification to definitely make sure that students get clarification on when applying to institutions. To my knowledge, that's not the case with our state university systems here in Florida. They're still requiring test scores, but there are other institutions that are making it test optional for ACT or SAT.
Thank you. So another question, given the times, as you just mentioned, how would a student go about finding community service opportunities?
Oh, that's a great question. So students can first they can go to their counselor's office or their community service coordinator's office at their school. They usually have a ton of resources available that students can access to see right in their local community what is available. Looking at what their interests are. I shared that if you know you aren't interested in animals, then you might not want to volunteer at the Humane Society. But there's so many other opportunities, Meals on Wheels, nursing home, Boys and Girls Club, you name it. So looking at those service opportunities that are available in your area. And I know that because of COVID, there have also been some virtual opportunities for service. I just think that it's important prior to you actually starting your service, you ensure that it's approved by the person on your campus that handles community service hours.
Thank you. Next question. Where can I look for internships? Websites, apps? Any suggestions?
Andrew, I'm gonna let you handle that one.
Am I off mute now?
Yes.
Okay. So as far as internships, I do know there are some companies that do offer internships, kind of like the big names, kind of like the Deloitte's, Gartner's, things like that, more for business. They do offer high school internships. that you can get in contact with them about. They do have special programs. I actually didn't know that in high school. Some of my friends and my frat brothers, they are the ones who let me know that. For that, but that's more so for careers after college. For someone that's looking to go into employment right now, I would say visiting your technical schools and your trade schools and seeing what options they offer, as well as kind of using some of those community resources. If someone has a friend of a family that's a welder or a plumber or something, when you have that summertime, maybe see if they can let you come out on a job with them and see how it is. Or if someone knows somebody that you can shadow, kind of use your resources and use those people that you do know to see what is out there and what is available. But for the more so like set internships, I do know that some companies do offer specific programs for high school students.
And I'm going to throw that back to you, Monique. Some school districts actually have offices that coordinate internships for their students, don't they?
Yes, they do. And again, that best friend of yours, you can see your school counselor to get more information and resources. So knowing who on campus to contact and to be in touch with is definitely a key in maintaining those relationships, because you want to be able to know who to go to.
Thank you. And this is probably going to be our last question, but it is a great one. What happens if your school doesn't offer AP classes? Will it affect me for college admissions? If so, how can it be offset?
Oh, Andrew, do you want to talk about that too? I know what I want to say, but I also want to hear what you say as a student.
As a student, and kind of knowing the current climate of the universities right now, I would try to offset that with community experiences and leadership and test scores. Because I think the main thing that's going to be there is that the colleges may not see that level of rigor, and may not see a very high GPA, because some people have like very high GPAs because of the AP and dual enrollment and things like that. So I would say try to offset that with leadership and really that that ACT and SAT score. If you can maybe if you're not taking as challenging of courses, if you can maybe prioritize more time to studying for the test, so that way your score is stellar. They won't ignore a stellar score.
Agreed. But I also want to add to that great answer and response. The colleges are looking at you holistically, right? So they want to see, of course, the rigor that you have on your course load, but they also want to see your involvement. They want to see your test scores. They want to see your service. They want to see the extracurricular activities, that you can balance these things while also performing well in your classes. So it's not at your fault that it's not available to you, but doing those courses that you can. And again, excelling, like Andrew suggested, academically in other areas and on those test scores.
And I'd like to follow up with both of you on what do you think about taking those AP courses if they're not offered in your brick and mortar school on FLVS, Florida Virtual School? And I'll take an answer from either of you.
I was going to ask Andrew, have you ever taken an advanced placement course online?
I have never taken an advanced placement course online, so I cannot speak to that. What option that I just thought of, if there are dual enrollment opportunities at a community college that is near you, I would probably look at that, if you could do that, because I know personally I took campuses from Polk State at my brick and mortar high school. I took classes at the actual Polk State campus, and I was able to take classes from Polk State online. So maybe that may be an opportunity that is available to that student. If they cannot physically go to a campus, maybe they can do a dual enrollment virtually, or actually at the community college. So that's kind of another option.
I think too, and I'm really glad you brought that question up, Carolyn, because you have to be mindful that virtual is a little different. And we've been in the virtual world, but you also don't want to overwhelm yourself. Like if you're taking, a full caseload during the school day on top of now an advanced placement course or a dual enrollment course that's online, is this something you can handle on top of your full class, as well as maybe working or volunteering or whatever responsibilities that you have? So just being mindful of your caseload and looking at the course requirements and expectations, and making sure it's something that you can handle.
Thank you. What a great way to end. This has been a wonderful session. I want to thank our presenters, Monique and Andrew, for all of the great information that you've provided to our parents and our students. I'll remind our audience that all of the sessions are recorded and will be posted on floridashines.org. We have one last session next Thursday evening, and we hope that you will sign up and attend and tell someone else, bring someone along. This only works if we as a community work together to ensure that our students get all of the information that they need to be a success. Thanks again, Monique and Andrew, and thank you everyone for joining us.
Thank you so much, everyone, and best of luck. Andrew, thanks for joining, and Ms. Carolyn, you did an awesome job.
Thank you so much. I had great people to work with.